And actually, Michael Delp, my poetry teacher in high school, said, "It is always permissible to tell a lie if it gets an emotional truth." And that line always stuck with me.
Yeah.
So,
Welcome to the Crazy Angels podcast with Pascal Dennis and David Logan. Hi, guys.
Hi,
hello,
everyone.
hello.
Today we want to talk about a song called I Tell Lies to Tell the Truth. And this song digs right into one of the oldest questions in art, the dance between art and artifice. David, can you give us a brief snippet of this song?
Sure. Here, let me also share my screen so you can follow along for those that are interested. Here we go.
He was a poet and a singer, and a hero of my youth, and we shared a flask of hooch. You and me are in cahoots. I tell lies to tell the truth, lies to tell the truth, lies to tell the truth.
Smooth.
Smooth.
Very good.
Smooth.
Very good.
I'm
Thanks,
back.
David.
Of course.
So Pascal, this one really, is about the tension between art and artifice, but what was the spark for I Tell Lies to Tell the Truth, and what were you aiming to uncover with it?
So, as often happens, it's a wonderful title suggested by David during our riffing and joking and goofing around as we like to do. And I was trying to express the difference between art and artifice through this meeting between an artist, in this case myself, and his hero. And this is a lie because I never did meet this hero in the song. But through this lie, I'm trying to tell the truth of what is art versus what is artifice. So, who is the hero? For me, it could be Philip Roth, the great American novelist. It could be Louis Armstrong or Duke Ellington, musicians I admire. It could be Charles Bukowski, the underground LA poet. So, I'm trying to express what is art, what is artifice, where do the lines blur, and what lessons can we take out of it? So that's a little bit of background in the song, and I'll pass the baton to David. He'll explain his magic in the production
Well,
and arrangement.
this one is one of those ones I sort of call the self-arranging song. Really, I mean, really, because Pascal sometimes writes incredibly sophisticated songs, and sometimes he takes a simple approach. And this is definitely one of the simpler songs. And whenever I'm considering the arrangement, the boss is the lyrics, like that's the boss, and so I have to serve that, and then the chords it comes second, even before the melody. Believe it or not, because most melodies are outlines of harmonic structures, right? So it's really the chord progression and the words that are sort of that guide me. But let me share my screen here, and then I can sort of take you through this thing. Yeah, again, just really super super simple here. So we've got Giulio Rossatelli. He's doing live guitars and bass, and then we're doing on top of that some Fender Rhodes and a Hammond organ. The drum patterns super simple, and unlike other songs, we're not like building it in chunks. It's really all just it's almost static, and I suppose for me I wanted I guess I just wanted that utter simplicity, and I wanted the arrangement to also be true. So I'm going for the truth here. So because this idea that, artists use lies to tell the truth. So we were talking about this earlier that, sorry, let me just, before I dive into the music, I'll just explain this with,
Yes,
where you can
please.
see my face. Um, so we were talking about this before, that this idea that, I suggested this title to Pascal, and it comes from a wonderful movie. If you have not seen it, it's called V for Vendetta. And this movie explores a lot of themes, including what is the truth, what is good, what is not good, because, the character uses absolute extreme means to, sort of bring the truth out of one of the protagonists, portrayed by Natalie Portman, who, poof, amazing job. Anyway, so it's an exchange, and I forgot who did the conversation back and forth. I think it was Stephen Fry who was talking to Natalie Portman's character, and he said, politicians twist the truth they twist the truth to tell lies. So in other words, they take something that's true and manipulate it into an absolute lie. They'll take an excerpt that somebody said that, is out of context, right? To push their political narrative on any side. Doesn't matter what side of politics you're on, both sides do it, right? So anyway, so there's that. And then of course, right after saying politicians use lies, truths to tell lies, he says, and artists use lies to tell the truth. And, if we break down the meaning of that, what does that mean? Well, for those who've been on this podcast, many of you have heard, for example, some of the big grand arrangements that I put together for some of Pascal's songs. This one is quite different, So for example, usually I take credit for all the drum parts because, I'm programming the drum, but again, it's a lie. I'm here. I'm the wizard behind the curtain, right? This is all a lie. It's all coming off a computer, right? And so then it's my job though to get, for example, to get these drums. We'll just go into the drums. So then it's my job here to wait, and let's just make sure the correct thing is loading here. I knew it. Sorry guys, give me one quick second. We're having a little big tech breakdown over here.
Maddie will clip it.
Anyway, the point. Wait, because I can't multitask. Nobody can actually. There we go. Okay, good. So everything's loaded. Anyway, so because I'm a drummer, I'm able to take, very simple rhythms and lies. Right? And so, these are all computer generated drum parts. Well, they're not, sorry. The sounds are coming from the computer. So the sound sources are all pre-recorded samples. Now, on the good side, these samples are played by real human beings. So that's good. We like that. But then they're put in the computer for someone like me to then realize my vision of what does a drummer do on a song like this, right? So I'm using a lie, which is because it's not me playing those drums, but it's how I envision drums are supposed to sound. So do you sort of see this idea of how lies, we as artists, we use lies. And I said before, a painter will use a two-dimensional canvas and paint something that's three-dimensional, right? So that's a lie. Have you ever seen the street artists, for example, who like on a sidewalk paint something so realistic that people are afraid to walk because they think they're going to fall down? Have you seen these street artists doing this? Just Google it. It's incredible. So again, that's a lie because the artist is just using chalk, right? And the sidewalk has not changed. He just used a lie. He lied to tell the truth. Now, what was the truth? The fear that somebody would fall down. That's an emotional truth. And actually, Michael Delp, my poetry teacher in high school, said, It is always permissible to tell a lie if it gets an emotional truth. And that line always stuck with me. So,
Yeah.
all right, I'll shut up and I'll take you
I
through this arrangement.
I
Go
have
ahead.
also an interesting thing which just occurred to me as we were talking about, where this idea of the song comes from. And basically, um, the art form of movies are basically the perfect example because,
Of
100%.
course.
the
Of course.
actors, they're like Natalie Portman is not really that person that you see in the movie, you know what I mean? But
That's right.
she's acting like someone she's not to convey the story. So
Well, yeah,
it's
but even
interesting.
just
Yeah.
yeah, but it's a great observation, but like we can even trace it back to the history of film and Thomas
Hmm.
Edison.
Yeah.
And, because it began with flip books, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
So you would just flip through a book and on each page, you could make a guy like running up a ladder or whatever. And then this became the idea, well, what if
Hmm.
we were to just take a bunch of still photographs and then do the same thing? And early film was like all crank reel. It was hand cranked.
Hmm.
So, and there's actually a wonderful movie called Shadow Magic where, the first guy to bring film into Asia.
Hmm.
And, he's showing just simple films of like they left the camera right at the edge of the railroad tracks. And then you see from the distance the train is coming and it's coming so close. And once it's like about to hit you, everybody in the audience tilts because there's like it was incredible because no one had seen anything like this ever before. And then magicians specifically used film because nobody knew what post-production was. So they take a picture of them sitting in a chair. And then they would take a separate piece of film and they'd film an explosion in front of them while they're still in the chair. And then as the smoke faded away, right? Or sorry, I'm saying it backwards. They would sit in the chair and then just do the smoke and they would be gone. They would not be in the chair anymore. And everybody in the audience was like, wow, because nobody knew about cutting two pieces of film. That was just like nobody knew what post-production was. Like basically we all know now. So it's even we can go further, Levi,
Even
because
with
that's a
recording
wonderful
history, right?
observation.
When
Say again.
I think even the history of music recordings had a similar, opposition. Basically, musicians said when, music recording was first introduced, like this is not real music because it's not real people playing it, it's just a recording, right? So,
Right.
and interesting how truth, can change over time. Like today, it's completely normal that if you were a musician, you're going to record that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Wise words, Levi, because that might be the greatest observation of all. The truth can change over time.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
exact, like, just right on the head with that one. So.